Sherlock arrives on the scene, using his expertise in physics and understanding of momentum to solve the case. Momentum is the tendency of an object in motion to resist change. An object must be moving to have momentum. Momentum is a vector quantity. Momentum equals mass multiplied by velocity.
This looks pretty bad, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Well, that's interesting.
What is it, Holmes?
Well, if you look at the way that the ribs are concaved right in there, we can see that there's a tremendous force applied to that whole chest area in there. So we can actually use the impulse momentum theorem to tell us how much force these ribs felt.
The impulse momentum theory?
Well, yes, Watson, the impulse momentum theorem. That is where the force times the time is equal to the mass times the final velocity minus the mass times the initial velocity. That's how we can find out what kind of weapon that we used.
I simply don't understand.
Of course you don't, Watson. Of course you don't, Watson. Let's go. I'll show you.
Where are we going?
To the first suspect.
In the last clip, you got to meet Sherlock and Watson. Towards the end, you got to see them push each other. This is an example of elastic collision, because after they collide, both people move separately with no loss of total kinetic energy. Total initial momentum is equal to total final momentum. The equation for this is shown on the screen.
Hi, who are you?
Well, hello, ma'am. My name is Sherlock Holmes, and this is my partner, Dr. Watson. We're currently investigating a murder.
Why is that?
Well, at this time, you are a suspect for this murder, and we need to go check your vehicle.
Murder? You're joking me, right? I was here all day yesterday with my family and they can prove that.
Oh, well, I'm sure they can, my lady.
Now, if you will excuse us, please.
No, my lady. Who else was at home at the time that you were?
My son and my husband. But my son is now at school, my husband is at work. But I swear they were both here yesterday with me all day long.
My lady, they can both verify that you were in fact at home.
Yes, they can.
Very well, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. What's your homework?
This is an example of an inelastic collision, because when the broom hits the ball, the two objects begin to move together as one mass. In an inelastic collision, final mass equals to combined mass. The equation for this is on the screen.
Watson, did you realize she was sweeping at the time of our conversation?
Do you deduce sweeping has something to do with a murder?
Of course not, don't be daft. However, it was an inelastic collision, by the way, because both objects were moving when they collided.
Well, maybe we should go question the husband and son.
Of course not, Watson. They are her family and they would lie for her, even if she wanted them to. Now let's go to the next suspect.
10 people a year die from smoking machines. Well, hello.
Hello, ma'am. We need to ask you a few questions. We're investigating a murder.
Murder? I've been at this game all day.
Well, can you have it ready to confirm this?
Yeah, my coach, the other players, the fans, the person I'm playing catch with right now.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Alright, can I have my ball back?
In the last clip, there is an example of both elastic and inelastic collision. For example, when the ball collides with the ground, it bounces and moves separately, which is an example of elastic collision. But when the suspect catches the ball, her hand and the ball move upward as one mass, showing an inelastic collision.
The murderer couldn't have been her. We were looking for an inelastic collision, and getting hit with a bat or softball would be an elastic collision, because the two masses do not begin to travel as one combined mass. In fact, they move in opposite directions.
Right, you are again, Dr. Watson. Good job. Now let's go ahead and interview that third suspect and then head back to the office.
Hello?
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my partner, Dr. Watson. We're here investigating a murder.
Well, I can assure you I ain't do no murdering.
Well, I noticed your car out there had a little bit of a dent on it. Am I explaining?
Oh yeah, I got in here an automobile accident on the way home from work the other day. I couldn't help it. The telephone pole kind of just jumped out in front of me. And so I had to walk that darn thing back here myself.
Well, I see. Is there any proof I can see, please?
I do have proof. Here is the police report saying I indeed hit a telephone pole.
Oh, mint. Well, good day to you, ma'am. Hope your car gets fixed in a timely manner.
Why, thank you so much.
When suspect 3 hit the telephone pole, this was an example of an elastic collision, as you can see in the clip. The toy car hitting the stool causes the car to bounce.
There seems to be no motive behind this accident. There is no ice and the road seemed fine to me. I checked the film records and it appears they called the police and reported the accident. By the way, this accident is an elastic collision because the car bounced off the telephone pole and continued moving.
Right you are, Dr. Watson. Let's get back to the station and sort all this out.
Sherlock and Watson investigate each suspect. Sherlock can't get rid of the hunch that suspect number 1 was a little off. He thinks back and remembers the eviction letter he saw. Turns out, suspect number 1 might not have been completely honest. She should have been heading to work at that time of the murder, and get this, the victim was her boss. She has been struggling with money and has been trying to work her way up.
Sir, it has to be the first suspect we interviewed. She has no alibi and an unexplainable dent in her car. I say we bring her in. She was probably driving during that time and the victim was her boss.
Right you are. Talk about getting canned, Dr. Watson. Let's go make the arrest. Let's do this.
You lead and subdue the suspect. I'll follow with handcuffs.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. In the name of King George, Sarah Hengsterberg, and Walter Lewin, you are being placed under arrest. I will now explain your charges. You are being charged with vehicular manslaughter in the first degree by your boss. I will now read you your Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you by the state. Knowing that I've just read these, do you have any questions for me?
She's got a gun!
Done, you Sherlock!
When the murderer tries to run away from Watson, he goes in for the tackle. This is an example of an inelastic collision because as Watson tackles the murderer, their 2 masses combine and fall to the ground as one. Using physics, Sherlock was able to recreate the murder. He discovered that the murderer hit the victim with her car. This is an elastic collision because when the car hits the victim, she is thrown forward and they both stay separate masses.